Namaste, everyone. I welcome you all to today's session. The topic today is love, greatest asset in the journey of life. Our guest speaker today is Ms. Dhyani Vashi. She's driven by the idea of integrating Indian and Western psychology through the lens of integral psychology, and she possesses a master's degree in clinical psychology. She's a perpetual thinker and a student of life, continuously seeking to deepen understanding of the human psyche. She's committed to leveraging the power of education as a tool for social change and building conscious society. I welcome you today, Dhyani, to the Yes Talk series. Thank you so much for being with us today. Look forward to a lovely and beautiful session with you. Over to you.
Thank you, Arunima. Good evening, everyone. The first thing that is coming to my mind while I see all of us here is that why are we here, or what has motivated us to be here today? What is the purpose behind? If we boil down all of these questions, I think it could be our love for teaching, our love for integral psychology, our love for life, understanding life. And for some of you, probably your love for me has brought you all here today. It is wonderful to see how every human action is governed by love on its essence. And how often do we forget to actually talk about what is love and what does it mean to us? Whenever in my life I had tried to break down any pattern into simple behavior, into simple understanding, it has boiled down to why do we need love, or what is love, or there's a need for love which creates certain consequences, which creates certain actions. And I have been able to come up with three fundamental elements that I think are base to love or essence of love. For me, the first one is to become a giver, to give, the ability to share. The second one is freedom. And the third one is what love is not. We are so confused, or we are so curiously looking out for what love is in its nature, that we aren't able to find out anything tangible on its source. So instead of finding or figuring out what love is, if we can look for what love is not, probably we'll be able to come up with an answer to love. So, to understand the first thing, that is the joy of giving. Whenever we talk about the action or the element of love, what we understand of it is an intense feeling or extreme feeling that we feel towards other people, towards our own self, an emotion, a feeling that is extreme in nature. But when we say that it is extreme in nature, it ends up being extreme because we are seeking it out, because we want it. The moment we change the lens to offering love, giving out love, I think it becomes a very fundamental basic process of sharing, of giving. Love is not transaction based, it is not transient. But what we have made out it today has become transient and transaction because we say that it needs to be two-way. It needs to be 50-50%. It needs to have two people involved to be called love. If we look at love, it only focuses on your own self, your love within yourself, and your love that you have to give out to the world. It's one's ability to nurture another being. It's one's ability to share your resources and to form a union, which is based purely on joy. I come across this dialogue very frequently on social media of people labeling love in terms of red flag or a green flag, or calling love in terms of I contribute 50%, you contribute 50%, and we call it love. But is it truly love then? Are we talking about a deal, a business proposal, or are we talking about love? Love cannot be based on the capacity of two people contributing to something. Love is based on the capacity of an individual to share whatever they can, and then the other person might reciprocate or might not reciprocate in their own capacities. If you lose out anything in life, I think we should always remember that we are missing out on the process of receiving rather than giving. That is my first fundamental element of love, that you share love, you give out love, you make sure that from your end you have given out enough and it will flow back to you. Second is freedom. Being the second element, I think it should liberate you. Whenever you say that you are in love, or there's a process of love, or there is love between two people in any relationship, I think it should liberate one. One should feel powerful. When one person experiences love, there should be no inhibition. Unapologetic, carefree, wild, and pure in its form. Acceptance of who the other person is and what they want to become. The moment we start thinking about love, we think about authority, we think about ownership, we think about belongingness. If we eliminate the idea of authority, if we eliminate the idea of ownership, I think love becomes a much easy procedure. It becomes very fundamental to us in terms of that, okay, I love this person and I'm going to give it in all whatever I have, and then the other person will reciprocate in their own capacity. So it does not take away anything from the other person. Instead, it gives more to the other person to be able to revert it back to you. For me, love in its energy, in its form, is like water. How water flows, how it in its nature, it's dynamic, it flows. There's no force that can stop water. There's infinite love in the world and there's infinite water in the world, and we should let both the elements flow in its nature. For me, the highest form of being, I say time and again, is to be able to love. If you believe in divine, if you believe there's a higher power out there, and if you ever want to worship, I think love is the strongest tool to be able to worship. When we talk about the third element of love, that is what it is not, I think the characteristics that we talk about. A very common stereotypical example that we all see out in the world is between two people who live together, who are in the institute of marriage, how they are always struggling because they demand things from each other. I can serve you this, I can offer you this, what do you have to offer me back? I am looking after our children, I'm looking after the house, what can you offer me? I think love is not based on such principles. Love is based on just being and purely enjoying the sense of being together. A lot of times I see people talking about that when I look out for my partner, I'm looking out for certain characteristics, certain life needs that needs to be met. They need to keep me happy, and then I like them, then I love them. But I think when two people who are fully content, who have their own insecurities and securities, they put it out on the table, and then they share it with each other. When they come together, there's only fun, there's only pure joy of love to share, and that for me is love. There are so many people around who have not been able to nurture, who have not been able to give out love because they have not received enough love. And I truly believe that love has the power to make someone or to break someone. If we look at teenagers, if we look at people who are just adulting, we'll see that they use this word heartbreak. They use this sense of losing themselves in a process of love very commonly or very vaguely. What are they trying to say? That I have lost myself in the process of love. If you truly loved, I don't think you ever end up losing yourself, or you end up losing any part of who you were or what that relationship was about. It was just that it could not fulfill what it had to offer after a certain point in time, and that ended that relationship. Not lack of love or lack of what we sense that love is. One of the simple and easy way for me to identify love has been how the periphery, how my outer body reacts to love or the process of love. When I'm surrounded by people who mean something to me, whom I love, who love me back, there is certain type of physiological harmony that my body experiences. There is a sense of comfort. There is a sense of harmony that my physical body feels. And that's where I know that it is pure love. There's so many case studies out there where we have seen that people have been able to cure themselves out of chronic illness, of prolonged illness, with the power of love. And the other way around, where love as a tool has damaged people, has harmed people in a way that they have not been able to get their rhythm back in life. So for me, one of the tool to access love or to understand love also comes from how it makes me feel physiologically or biologically, what it does to me. Many a times I end up saying that when I experience the pure joy of love, my skin, that is the most outer surface that we can talk about, we can think of, the sensation, the sensory pleasure, it reacts in certain way. So people say that when you are in love or when you experience love, your skin starts glowing, or you shine, or your skin becomes better. I think it is true because it is such a fundamental emotion that it has an impact on your physiology, on your biology, on how you feel, how it makes you feel. Another thing that comes to my mind when I talk about physiology and love is how it makes you feel in terms of different parts of your body. When people who experience intense emotion of love, and when they go through a process of losing that person, there is often a sense of physical discomfort in terms of what we call psychosomatic illness, or we also label it in terms of one part of the body that cannot function or has difficulty functioning. Whenever there is some sort of discomfort that I have experienced in my personal life, I think my calf, that is the lower part of my body, it reacts to it in certain way. And that's where I can consciously introspect that there is a process which is happening and I need to go past this process. When I talk about love, our first understanding of love comes from our parents, or primarily from our mother, because she is our first caregiver who nurtures us, who cares for us, who really shows what love is or what love means to us. While growing up, in our first fundamental years, in our primitive years, there is lot of sense of dependency, and the moment we step out in the outer world, we go to school, we interact with people, there is a social connection that happens. We realize that love has different forms. Love is progressive in its nature. When we talk about a child, their first understanding of love comes from parents. But as soon as they walk outside their home, they start developing relationships on their own. They have a relationship with their teacher, they have a relationship with the school peers, they have a relationship they make with their friends. And as we start exploring, we realize that love is not based on just caring, or love is not just based on what we have to offer to the world or what the world has to offer us. As we go ahead and we reach the sweet spot of puberty, as we start experiencing certain hormones within us, we realize that love is very different when it comes to romantic form of love. It has its own shape, it has its own body, the way it reacts to it, the way we react to it is very different from what we have understood of love so far. The romantic love, the moment it knocks at our door, it comes with rush of hormones. It comes with rush of blood. There's so much excitement. Everything in the world seems doable. One feels like that one can conquer the world. And when at a naive age, you start experiencing so much within yourself in terms of love, it's difficult to let go of it when it does not serve your purpose. If it ends up serving our purpose and we believe in the constitute of marriage and we create a social construct that we understand marriage of, after a point in time, everyone has this complaint of that the relationship does not look like of what it seemed in the first go or what the honeymoon phase looked like. And there is a unsaid difference of opinion, distance that starts filling in the void which gets created. People feel distant from each other, and it becomes a source of unhappiness in an individual's life. When we talk about marriage, a lot of times romantic love takes a back seat and social responsibility of marriage takes forward the driving seat. And we are not ready to let it drive us. We are not ready for the world to be the way it has become. We fear change. We do not want the love that has always been for us to change. A lot of times I have seen that married couples, after a point in time, they become so dependent on each other that there is no sense of identity of who we are, of who you are. There is a co-shared identity, there is a shared love. Everything becomes about commonality coming together. When we say that two people need to come together, we are talking about a union, which is much deeper than just coming on common grounds for societal needs. When we talk about marriage, I think people who truly have a sense of identity, who can experience freedom within themselves, who have the capability to share that freedom with other person, can show a gate to a successful marriage. A marriage which is not based on compromise, a marriage which is not based on conditioning, but it is based on fun. It is based on joy of coming together, of sharing love, of sharing responsibilities, and everything along with what the society demands from us. When we talk about love and marriage, very often, as much as we try to avoid it, the concept of infidelity has a role to play there. Biologically, if we talk about human beings, we are built in a way that makes us polygamous, or how we have evolved makes us somewhere down the line polygamous in nature. But because the society needs structure, because we need a form, there is childbearing, and there are a lot of other processes involved. We need the society to structure in a way. There comes the role of monogamy, of being dedicated to one person, of finding it all in one individual. But because marriage as an institute tries to broaden people in a way that it constricts them, it does not allow them freedom, people start seeking stimulus outside marriage. People want to experience that rush, that adrenaline, that love that they were looking for in the relationship in the first phase. They start looking it outside again. If we talk about any relationship, after a point in time, if there is no sense of freedom, if there is no sense of identity, it starts getting monotonous for people. And as we understand humans, we do not like monotonous patterns. We like to break them. We like fun, we like excitement, we like rush. We all thrive on it. And for you to be able to be committed to a person, for you to be able to enjoy that relationship with that person, there comes my first two rules that I have spoken about, the elements that you need to first give, you need to share, and the second one being that you experience freedom, you give individual freedom to live. And that's where probably we have a chance of eliminating or reducing what we call as infidelity or the process of falling out of love. When we also talk about love, I think our idea of love is so constricted, it is restricted of not being able to experience it out in the world. There is so much love out there. There's so many beings that we can nurture to and cater to in different ways, but we have only understood love in terms of romantic relationship or at most companionship. If we truly start understanding love, we'll understand how love can have different forms. What I feel for a friend, what I feel for animals around, what I feel for each and every being that is around the world is love and is what drives my behavior. So if we start catering to different forms of love, it's an easier process for us to enjoy love, to experience love fully. If I talk about my own self, I have been someone who has always received love in some form or other. And because I have received so much love, there's always this question of that what if all of this is taken away from me? Or all of this does not exist someday. And that's where, as I'm growing and as I'm going ahead in my own journey, I have started giving out more love in terms of what I want to share out with the world as compared to what the world has to offer me back. And it has truly worked for me. So every time I put an action, I put a thought out there, it's only based on what I feel for it and not based on what it reflects back to me. Love, as we understand, is a union of your own self within yourself and your own self with the outer world. Our fundamental love is the animal based love, our instinct based love. You are supposed to cater to certain needs within me. I cater certain needs within you. We fulfill that and we are in love. And we are in the process of love. The moment we let go of such instincts, the moment we let go of this animal cruelty based love is when we start experiencing love for our own self and love for people out there. Love in its highest form is the divine love, as we have understood in terms of Sri Aurobindo's work or Mother's work or integral psychology, that your ability to align yourself with the divine love is the ultimate form of love. When I talk about love, I often say that it is overgeneralized. It is the most common thing that we all speak about, but it is still one of the things that we have not understood. Ever, if I have asked someone this question, that what love means to you, I have only received back the characteristics of love. If someone cares for me, I love that person. If I care for someone, I love that person. Nothing beyond characteristics have been spoken back to me. Only recently, as I'm understanding more love in terms of my own experiences, have I been able to understand that one, love is infinite, love has no form, and it is only based on sharing. So I can share as much love as I have for the other person out in the world, and that should be it from my end. When I talk about love, there are often these labels being used on social media where people say that we are dealing with situationship or benching, as we call it. And then there is another extreme of people who share their opinion in terms of that it's wrong, it should not out be there, or why should we stay somewhere where we have not received a commitment from the other person. But if we are truly looking for commitment, are we looking within ourselves, or are we looking out in the world in other people? When you really love someone, when love is your process, it's your calling, you will not look out for what the other person has to offer you. When people decide who they want to get married, a lot of times they question this. Will this person stay committed to me forever? Will this person only love me? What if they fall out of love? If it is truly love in its nature, there is no process of letting it go. People write letters and they wish, to give out love when they are on their deathbed. And that's where they truly understand that had I been more focused on giving out love instead of receiving love, there would not have been so much regret that would have stayed with me on my deathbed. Whenever I think of love, I think that love requires courage. To love freely requires faith. Let love happen to you. Allow it to knock your doors. Celebrate it. Let it be your greatest asset. Do not allow it to become a liability for yourself and for other people. And let love be gentle in its form. Because as gentle as love is, yet it is persistent. It is strong. It stays with you. Never say no when love is being offered. Never reject the idea or form of love. Love, keep loving, and watch how things open for you. Watch how things will speak back to you. There is this quote which I would like to use to summarize everything that love means to me is, till you have the ability to give out love, to share what you experience in terms of love, and you have people to share that love, everything is doable. Every process is functional. So let love flow. Water is an element that really speaks back to me. So I always say love and water should flow and it should not be restricted. It should not be restricted to yourself, to one person, to a thing. It should just flow in its own element, in its own nature. I think that's love for me, and from my end, the floor is open for discussion or any question that comes up in anyone's mind.
Thank you so much, Dhyani. Thanks a lot. That was really beautiful. Thanks for this heartfelt session and for such beautiful insights that you shared. Thank you so much. As you said, we can check with the participants. If anyone has a question or anyone wants to share something with us, please go ahead. You can use the chat box or just unmute yourself and speak up. Please go ahead.
I have a question. I do now a long time yoga, and the way of love has changed because I have changed to a different person. Can you tell something about, from a point of view of individual yoga and the mother, how this love changes from one people to another people, but to the divine, which is in everybody, how that develops?
I'm so sorry, I've not been able to hear your question right. Could you please repeat it?
I've done long time yoga, so my personality changed. I'm less ego and more, something. And the love which I had when I was young is different from now, because when I meet somebody, I just want to be open. But how is that love from me to the divine? Also the divine in others, of course. That's my question.
I think love keeps changing is a very broad way to say it, but I think it keeps evolving with time. Of what I understand is that what you seek out in terms of love evolves as you evolve in your own journey of life. As you identify yourself, as you identify your personality, your who you are, your identity, you evolve with the idea of love. Say for example, before, if love meant authority to you, or if love meant some characteristics of an individual to you, it might not be the same over your entire lifespan. And that's the idea of love, that it keeps evolving, it keeps changing as an individual grows and as an individual changes in their lifespan.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dhyani. Participants, anyone else wants to share something or ask something, please go ahead. Okay, so Dr. Bijlani, can I request you to share your thoughts, please?
We have Aditi here, an expert in integral psychology. Maybe she may like to say something.
I mean, of course, we are talking about love in all its attributes, and Dhyani kept mentioning characteristics, characteristics. So I was just wondering what is the other way of understanding love or experiencing love, because if you really live on the outside, tangibility is what you understand, that tangibility is what you seek, because that's a very definitive way of understanding something. But also rightly she said that it evolves. So of course, as I have a deeper understanding of my own self, I have a deeper understanding of the world. So like somewhere I think mother has written that if you know how to love, you also know how to receive love. So it's like the giving which comes first, and she also spoke a lot about it. But in my head, when I was listening to her, for me, it was more like I always see things from parts of the being, right? So outer life, inner life, surface being, inner being, and all of those things. So if I'm living on the surface, the definition of love for me is exchange. So it will be like, because exchange is a very survival thing. So to survive, I need a certain kind of love, which is an outer need of my surface being. But the more I go inside, the need for inner being is to give. So it also depends on what part of my being or where am I stationed in my being. That changes my notion and experience of love. And the evolving aspect also comes from there. So as I go closer to the divine, I don't have to think, oh, I have to love. By nature, I will love. So it's like a very simple equation: receive from the divine, give to the world, receive from the divine, offer it to the world. So it's like the more and more I open the receiving channel, the more and more the offering channel opens. And that's how that becomes my connect to the world. So when I offer, then I was like, oh, so where is my stock coming from? So my stock is coming from the divine. So this is a level of self-work that's happening. And as a result of my self-work, my self-engagement with the world is happening. So this becomes a, like you keep giving the example of water. So the sense which we get is flow. So actually it's divine love offered to the world. It's not human love which I'm offering to the world. So I'm receiving and offering. So this becomes my journey of, say, integral yoga. So the more and more my parts of the being become transparent, become more and more oriented towards the divine. So it's like today I might give just a mental love. Oh, I understand I should love the divine and I should be good in the world. So that's a mental form of giving. The more I open my vital, my heart, like the space to the divine, then I start giving from here. So when I become really very like supple in my body, very plastic in my body, I can offer more from an actionable aspect. So the more my paths orient towards the divine, the more dose I receive, the more I become a very active instrument in the world. So when I heard, when you said the greatest asset, it's like when my being becomes my greatest asset, love becomes my greatest asset. So it's like that oneness with the divine leads to the oneness with the world. So where am I putting my intention? So where is my work? So yeah, that's the sense which came to me. It was very visual for me of, like maybe say, turning towards the divine, like the flower opening towards the divine. So my love for the divine, my love with the divine, because outside life is just a manifestation of the inner world. So the clarity, the purity of the inner will express in the outer. So my work is here. This is an output, like a byproduct kind of a thing. So yeah, I just feel like wrapping around that sense of love when I talk about it. And I was like, yeah, please give me. I want to give. So it suddenly became very visual for me in that sense. Yeah, that's my offering and share. Thank you.
I'd like to have a question on that one. When you are a becoming of the self and I'm a becoming of the self, why should there be love flowing from the one to the other if there is already unity and we are all one? Why should there go love from one to the other?
Love is just flowing everywhere because we have a structure, we have a form outside. It looks like it's going from one place to another, but it is everywhere. But it's like energy is everywhere, but still we are mental beings or human beings looking
Yeah,
at
okay.
matter. So it's like it's flowing, but it's also one channel. Like it's like those tributaries. So the sea is flowing, but tributaries have their role to play. So human love is that tributary coming from the absolute divine love, which has its role to play.
Okay.
Thank you, Aditi. Duja, sir, you have raised the hand. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for a lovely talk and for uh, giving us the opportunity to look at this topic so many different ways. Thank you very much. I just wanted to point out something about love, and that is that how incomprehensible it can sometimes be, because it is one of those attributes that doesn't always exactly fit in with our ideas of self-survival. So it doesn't sometimes, appear to fit in with the laws, what we consider as basic laws of life. So it can be sometimes so incomprehensible. Yes, it comes in so many different forms, but some of those forms we just don't recognize, and maybe in our journey, we have to develop this ability to recognize, some of these unrecognizable forms of love that we receive all the time, and in fact that, which probably makes the universe go around. So just some different ideas which came into my head. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Dr. Bijlani, I request you to share your thoughts, please.
Dhyani has covered an extremely wide canvas. She has talked about all types of love, human love in all its grades, including romantic love and divine love, and love of the divine for us. So there hardly anything that she has perhaps left out in the spectrum. And therefore, although I mean it's not possible to do justice to such a wide range of ideas, she has left us with a great deal to think about. So she has given us a lot of food for thought. Let me start with this. Why do we need to love? Why does love have to flow from one to the other if we are already one? Well, I mean, these are all different layers of reality. While I'm at the deepest level, we are all one, and therefore should also have that sense of oneness, which is even higher than the sense of unity. But the fact that we are individuals is also a reality, although not of the same order, and therefore both are important. Something like the white color, it's being just one color is a reality, but it's being made up of seven colors is also a reality. It all depends upon how you're looking at it. So, and then let me turn to what Aditi said. And if I got it right, she said something very important, that love is not something to be done, that we have to love because it is something nice to do. It is something that happens. And why it happens, what is the motive or what is the trigger, would depend upon the rung of love. At the lower rungs, it is primarily attraction. And that is something like the sunflower turning to the sun, gets attracted to the sun. So at the lower rungs of love, it is attraction. At the higher rungs of love, it is inspired by a sense of oneness. So that would be sort of the rough way to put it. But there's always a trigger, whether in the attraction or in the oneness, that leads to love. And therefore, it just happens. We don't have to do something. We don't have to love because it is something nice to do. Now, when it comes to the rungs of love, uh, there are these rungs, and as Sri Aurobindo said in Savitri, that we all rise from the mud and start with the mud and rise to the sky. So uh, it's possible to relate to all these rungs of love. And the lowest rung is the one which is based on the idea of what I get. And the higher rung is the one which is based on give and take. That is the 50-50 relationship that Dhyani talked about. And the highest is the one which is based on giving, which is without any expectations, and just it is there because of the joy of giving. And it is not that it's just because it's the higher rung of love that it's more desirable. Once again, it is something that would happen as the person evolves, as the person gets more and more in touch with the divine essence, with the deepest self, or the outer and the inner get bridged, whichever way you like to put it. So when that happens, automatically the quality of the love would also undergo a change. And that would require evolution in which all the circumstances of life can be uh, material for or vehicle for, including experiences in love, which means experiences at the lower rungs of love, which disappoint us, and that also becomes a trigger for evolving to a higher rung of love. Because in love, primarily we seek two things, as Sri Aurobindo said: intensity and permanence. And therefore, true love does have, or love, even at the vital level, lower vital level, has a great deal of intensity, whether it is love for someone of the opposite sex or whether it is love for the child. These are all different forms of vital love, and they all have a great deal of intensity. But then the other thing that one seeks, that is permanence, is something which somewhere deep within we know will not be realized. And the experience of life shows us repeatedly that yes, it did not work out, it was not permanent. So since it lacks permanence, as a person evolves, he starts looking at something which will be permanent. And one may say that as one moves in that direction, the intensity would go down. But then Sri Aurobindo has made one important point here also, that it's a mistake to think that the love which comes from the deepest self, which is not looking for that sort of permanence in things which cannot last, that love by necessarily therefore will have a low intensity. That love can have the same degree of intensity. The only thing is, instead of being a red flame, it is now a white flame. And as we know, white flame in a way is even more intense than the red flame, although it may look much weaker. So the intensity can be there without the desire for permanence. And as that goes, along with that also go many of the other things which are normally associated with the love at the lower rungs. That is the attachment, sense of exclusivity, which in turn leads to jealousy, the sense of possessiveness, the sense of expectations, the egoistic demands that one makes on the person whom one thinks one loves. And if those demands are not felt, a sense of anger. Now, each of these things would disappear as one evolves to the higher rungs of love, when the intensity still can stay, but because now it is coming from a deeper level, all these things which are an expression of the ordinary mental consciousness, they will tend to disappear. Of course, it's a process, it's not a one-time event. So, but one can see that the process will move in that direction towards the love being there, it also being intense, it also finding an expression in giving, but at the same time, getting more and more free from these impurities. Impurities which arise from the mental level of consciousness: attachment, possessiveness, jealousy, egoistic demands, anger, and all those things, they will tend to disappear. So that is the sort of process that one would go through, and applies to all types of love, including romantic love. And sometimes it's this inability to understand this, that one expects the type of love that a person starts with to sort of be perpetuated. One expects it to be perpetuated, and when one is disappointed, one feels that love has somehow disappeared. Love need not disappear. It can, in fact, transform itself to a higher version. And now, one of the things that I've also said, and gradually I have been thinking and sort of realizing more and more, which is not entirely true. So let me share that. I've often said that love alone is not enough. Love should also find an expression. Now, when we say love should find an expression, in a very broad sense, it is true. But then, what is that expression? One thinks that the expression has to be in the form of giving. But then one can give only what one has and to someone who needs it. And that complementary situation is important. When that is not there, does it mean that love for those where this complementary situation does not exist has to disappear? That also does not have to disappear, because when this complementary situation does not exist, but still one feels a sense of love for somebody who does not need what I can give and who needs what I cannot give, then at least one can give that person freedom. That was the another important principle which Dhyani talks about. That let that person be as the person is. I love the person as the person is. I don't have to be able to express it by giving. So by giving that freedom, or making the love unconditional, that itself is a form of giving. That is, that also becomes a form of giving as the love becomes more and more unconditional, and that in fact takes the person to a higher rung of love. Another thing that one can give by way of universal love, when we talk about it, where that complementary situation does not exist necessarily, is by not judging the person. And now there sometimes comes a difficulty, because one may be placed in a situation where some sort of evaluation or judgment becomes important. For example, you are at the workplace, you love all the people who work with you, but suppose you happen to be in a position where you are in a managerial position and there are people working under you. Now, if one says that if I love them, I don't have to judge them, and if I find something wrong, I don't even have to take them to task, one will not be doing one's duty well. So how does one compromise there? Does it mean that now you stop loving them? Now, there, one sort of what the way out is that one is working at two different levels. One is the superficial level where you are judging the person. You are also taking the person to task when the person doesn't come up to your expectations. But there's another level, a deeper level, where you are still loving the person because the person is a manifestation of the divine. Now, what difference does that make in real terms, in practical terms, if you take that type of an attitude? Firstly, you will be doing it in the spirit of the Gita, the way Arjun was told to fight, but not hate the Kauravas. Fight without hatred, do it as a duty. So you're doing it as a duty, but you're sort of, in a way, you can also say you are indulging in some sort of a drama. You're acting. On the surface, you are acting as if you are angry or judgmental, but deep within, you are completely at peace. You are just being an instrument who has been placed in, of the divine, who has been placed in this situation where judging this person and taking action if the person does not come up to your expectations is a part of your duty. So that is your swadharma. So you're taking it in that spirit, but deep within you're loving. Now, what difference does it make in practice? The difference it makes in practice is that anything concerning that person, when it comes to you in a file, suppose, these days, I don't know whether files are used or we just do everything online on computers, but the essence remains the same. When that person file comes to you, you look at the issue independently, irrespective of how you have been judging this person as a matter of your duty, which means you take an independent decision on every issue concerning this person. It's not that, so because you judge the person negatively, then anything concerning that person, when it comes to you, you always have to write an adverse remark. You always have to reject what he wants. You always have to do something against him. Now, that should not happen. Now, that will happen if you truly love that person. You are loving because the person is a manifestation of the divine, and you are judging because it's your duty to do so. Then, comes the where we don't even have to judge as a matter of duty. There's not much interaction involved. There is no complementary situation that exists. Suppose you are in a queue somewhere. There are 20, 30 people in the queue, be it the airport or a bus station or wherever it is, or it is the ashram dining hall. Wherever you find, suppose there's a queue. Now, if you start just seeing these persons as a manifestation of the divine without any interaction taking place, That itself becomes an expression of your love, coming from a sense of oneness, that I am a manifestation of the divine, they are also a manifestation of the divine. So you are reinforcing that idea of oneness, and it becomes a sort of an open eye meditation. So that itself is meditation. So these are all different expressions of love, and they are all arising uh, at lower rungs from a sense of attraction, and at higher rungs from a sense of oneness. So that is, these are some of the thoughts I thought I'll share.
Thank you so much, sir, sharing your valuable insights. Thanks a lot. Okay, so yeah, Marcelo has shared his thoughts. Many thanks for the session, very profound indeed. It seems more easily to show affection to our close ones than to people whom we don't know. In spite of that, we tend to criticize and fight more with our partner or close ones, which sometimes makes even more difficult to express true love to them than to people whom we know less. It can't be only because we spend more time with them. Please kindly share your thoughts about it.
Dhyani, would you like to respond?
I think it depends on your level of growth, how you go around with other people. I'm always amazed when I'm in the train or on the street. So many people cannot even look at you or greet you. That always amazes me, because I think that we are all one. So, but that's how the world is.
Well, if Dhyani is quiet, let me respond to Marcelo's question. The fact that we feel a great deal of love for those who are close to us, like, say, the parents, partners, siblings, children, and so on and so forth, uh, that is, one can say, nature's device for making us love the easier way, something that comes instinctively, something that is easy. And we are expected to move from this easy type of love to a more difficult type of love, where we can love also those who are not related to us by blood of marriage. So it's a easy beginning for us. You start at lower levels, lower grades, and then you move to higher levels. You start with school, you go to college. So that is the process, and that's why probably nature has devised the life cycle in such a way. Now, then why is it that we fight with them? It's only because you love them that you fight with them. Because you see, your love is not perfect, so there are some expectations, and uh, therefore, uh, there will be these fights also. But then they are because you are basically concerned with the person. Love is also a type of concern. You don't fight with people who have exactly the same defects as those with whom you are fighting, but you don't do it because you don't care for them. So that's why it has been said that the opposite of love is not hatred. The opposite of love is indifference. So you are indifferent to so many, although, of course, you may be seeing them as the manifestation of the divine, but you don't fight with them because basically you're not interacting with them. You're not that much concerned with them. So when love expresses itself in a concern and proximity and repeated interactions, then you have these quarrels, which also are indirectly because of the love, because you're concerned with those people. But then as you rise in your ranks of in the ranks of love, those quarrels will also go down, because then you'll become less and less judgmental. The love will become more and more unconditional. The love will depend more and more upon giving rather than getting. So as it moves in that direction, these quarrels will also go down.
I think just to add to Sir's point also, that when you are dealing with someone who is not in your close proximity or someone you deal with them on everyday basis, there's less accountability that you have to deal with. When say you are talking about your partner, you're talking about your parents, there's a lot of accountability that comes into picture. If you do certain type of behavior, you are accountable to me, I am accountable to you, and that is a base of conflict. While as it's not the case with someone you have just met on airport or you've met on railway station, because you don't have to be accountable towards them. So I think that might also be a factor why this happens.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dhyani. Thanks a lot. I would like to inform everyone that the recording of today's session and all the Yes Talk sessions are published on our YouTube channel, Yes Spirituality. This is how it is spelled. You can visit the channel to explore subjects and videos on yoga, education, spirituality, and related subjects also like self-help, psychology, and wellness. And we invite you to join us on our social media platforms also on Instagram and Facebook. We are there with the same name, Yes Spirituality. And as I mentioned earlier in the chat box, please do share your email IDs with us. If you are new to the platform, you'll be added to our mailing list. You'll get regular updates about such sessions and our regular video uploads. Dhyani, thank you so much once again for sharing your valuable time with all of us. Thanks a lot. And thank you, participants, for being with us today. We'll close today's session now with a moment of peaceful silence.
Thank you a lot.